in Chicago. Kato. Nigga was a head of Latin Kings, yo. Head Latin King.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Top dog. You know what I
That's
mean?
crazy.
Every time I came to Chicago, so we had 10 trucks.
We had a friendship, a brotherhood with DMX. That was the only industry we really got really tight with him when he was in Chicago, hanging in Chicago.
DMX always gave off that vibe like nothing could touch him on the mic or in the streets. And part of that unshakable power came from who he rode with, the Latin Kings. But it wasn't just random members showing him love. DMX had a tight connection with the top dog himself, King Kato, who was running the whole operation at that time.
In Chicago. Kato. Nigga was a head of Latin Kings, yo. Head Latin King.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Top dog. You know
That's
what I mean?
crazy.
Every time I came to Chicago, so we had 10 trucks at the airport. Wait for me.
Holy.
In fact, I got the truck he gave me downstairs.
The Kings were ready to ride out for DMX against anybody, even heavy names like Jay-Z or Ja Rule. They were down to handle business if it ever came to that.
You know who the f I'm talking to. You only alive because of me. You only alive because of me. Yeah, remember Chicago. That's all I'm gonna say, Lo. Remember Chicago.
Damian Cash, a mixtape artist and one of King Kato's closest friends, later spoke about how deep that connection really ran. He said DMX wasn't just some rapper they did business with, he was family. According to Damian, he was the only artist they truly rocked with on a personal level. Everyone else was strictly about money and deals. But with X, it was real loyalty and brotherhood.
Had a friendship, a brotherhood with DMX. That was the only industry we really.
That loyalty really showed when DMX and Ja Rule's beef hit its peak. Both of them ended up at the same airport in Chicago, and things got tense quick. Words were exchanged, and that's when DMX made a call to King Kato. Later that night, when Ja Rule was getting ready to leave, DMX had the whole airport on lockdown, 10 cars deep, full of his people waiting out front.
I come out the airport when I Kato. 10 trucks.
Pow.
All that.
It was serious. If DMX had given the word, it could have turned ugly right there for Ja, but X chose not to push it. He let Ja walk away that night.
You know who the f I'm talking to. You only alive because of me. You only alive because of me. Yeah, remember Chicago. That's all I'm gonna say, Lo. Remember Chicago.
That single move showed what kind of man DMX really was. He had power, but he had control too. The respect between him and the Latin Kings ran deep, not because of his fame, but because he was real through and through. So when King Kato was murdered, it broke DMX down hard. To honor him, DMX dropped a tribute track called Io Kato.
That's some bad news. Kato's dead, man.
What?
Yeah, Kato's dead, man.
You can't be serious, man.
And the music video was pure emotion. Fat Joe even showed up in it, and Kato's wife appeared at the end, making the whole thing feel raw and personal.
That do for my friends. We okay.
After that, DMX's connection with the Latin Kings only got stronger. Kato's brother even spoke about how much he respected DMX for keeping Kato's name alive like that. The bond ran so deep that DMX became the godfather to Kato's daughter.
I looked up to, man. A lot of people don't know this, but DMX was my daughter's godfather. And,
No shit. Okay.
You know, he wrote a song for my brother when he was murdered. It's called Ayo Kato or something.
No
like
shit.
that.
Oh,
Now that's real love. Damian Cash also revealed that whenever X came through Chicago, he always checked in with the Kings. They'd hang out, talk, and even pray together. That kind of loyalty doesn't fade. Some of the Kings were so devoted to DMX that they even got tattoos that said "Dogs for Life," a permanent reminder of the respect they had for him and what he stood for.
That have a Dogs for Life tattoo. I was supposed to be one of the guys. I just wasn't around the day when they were going to the tattoo shop to get it, and I couldn't make it.
DMX's bond with the Latin Kings, especially through King Kato, was way deeper than most street affiliations out there. That connection wasn't just talk. It was built on loyalty, power, and real respect. Now let's switch gears and dive into who King Kato really was and why his name carried both fear and respect in the streets and the music world. Kato's story began in the Les Claire Courts projects on 43rd and Lemoyne, a rough part of Chicago that's long gone now. Life there was tough. No shortcuts, no easy wins. Growing up with nothing but grit around him molded him into the man he became. Eventually, Kato moved over to 25th and Trumbull in Little Village, a spot that would later become the core of his empire. That's where he really started to build his name and control his turf. In those streets, Kato was known for being ruthless when he had to be, but always sharp and strategic. People respected him deeply, but they also knew better than to cross him.
Super humble, nice guy when he respected you, and his street side was an animal. And, you know, that's just who.
That respect wasn't handed to him, it was earned. Back in 1993, Kato got hit with some heavy charges: attempted murder, aggravated battery with a firearm, and armed violence. The man faced serious time and ended up serving 7 years behind bars. But even in that, he showed what kind of leader he was. Kato wasn't just about putting in work, he was about building something bigger. The Latin Kings had always been known as a powerful force on the streets, but under Kato's influence, they were stacking real money. He ran things with order, not chaos. Everything he touched had structure, discipline, and hustle behind it. And a big part of that came from who he kept close. His wife, Valerie Gaetan, was one of the most important people in his life. Valerie came from a strong, respected background. Her father was a Chicago police officer, which gave her serious influence in the neighborhood. Together, they were a power couple. Kato ran the streets, and Valerie held down the image, the connections, and the respect that came with it. Everybody in Chicago knew who Valerie was, and being with her gave Kato a whole new level of access and respect. She was sharp, fearless, and had street smarts that could rival anyone around her. Valerie wasn't just Kato's wife, she was his partner in power. There's even a wild story that Fat Joe once told about NBA legend Allen Iverson nearly losing it all over Valerie. Apparently, AI was so captivated by her that he didn't care who she was with or where they were.
Allen Iverson is in there. Kato's in there one deep with his wife. This AI was going crazy. This is when AI was like LeBron James.
Yeah.
He was like, oh no, I got to have.
Fat Joe had to step in quick, warning him that Kato's people were right there and would have handled things on the spot if he didn't back off.
Pulled him in the corner, I said, they're gonna kill you.
Right. You ready for early
But
retirement?
in the
forever?
middle of the basketball court on TV. You don't want this at all.
That moment alone showed just how much weight Kato's name carried. Nobody wanted smoke with him or his family. But Kato's reach didn't stop at the local level. He was connected to real power and real money. He linked up with his childhood friends, the notorious Flores twins, who were also from Little Village. These weren't small-time hustlers. The Flores twins were the main distributors for El Chapo and the Sinaloa cartel in Chicago. They were moving massive loads, controlling a huge part of the city's underground economy. In those streets, whoever controls the product controls the power. And with Kato aligned with the Flores twins and backed by the Sinaloa network, he became untouchable for a while. Still, Kato wasn't just about the street game. He had another side, a deep love for music. He poured his energy into that world too, becoming one of the major figures behind D-Row Records. That's actually how he ended up forming a close bond with DMX. Through the music scene, Kato started building bridges between street power and industry influence. He did business with Fat Joe, had ties with Swizz Beatz, and even crossed paths with the young Kanye West. Fat Joe once shared a crazy story about meeting Kanye for the first time. And get this, Kanye was literally carrying Kato's Louis Vuitton bags.
Turned around and he got this one black dude with him. So I said, yo, Kato, man, who's the black dude with you? It's Kanye West. He's a producer. Kanye West, when I met him, he was carrying his Louis luggage, putting it over this Louis Vuitton Dom. He was like, he's a producer. I bought him a bunch of equipment and he does the beats.
That's how much pull Kato had. People who later became icons were once running errands for him. Kato was also known as the guy to call when rappers came through Chicago. When artists hit the city, they checked in with him because they knew he'd keep them protected. His name carried weight with everyone, local or out of town, because being under Kato's wing meant you were good, no questions asked. His word was law, and nobody wanted to test it. He was the perfect mix of power and presence. A true street general who commanded loyalty without even having to raise his voice. Young guys in the game looked up to him like a legend. Even though he was a gang leader, he still carried himself with humility, respect, and a kind of calm energy that made people trust him instantly. At his peak, Kato had it all: money, cars, respect, and one of the most admired women in the city by his side. But like every street story, the past eventually comes knocking. And on June 4th, 2003, everything came crashing down. That was the day Kato was killed, and it didn't happen in some dark alley or random spot. It went down in a place he felt safe, a barbershop he'd been going to for years, the kind of place where his guard was down and nobody expected the storm that was about to hit. Kato was always about keeping it clean, fresh cut, sharp fade, the whole look on point. His go-to spot was a little place called Nationwide Cuts, a humble barbershop running out of a trailer near Roosevelt and Sacramento on Chicago's west side. He'd slide through a few times a month to stay fresh. On that one fateful night, the NBA Finals were on, Spurs versus Nets, and Kato was just chilling in the chair, relaxed, with his back facing the open door. He had no clue what was about to go down. Out on the streets, a 21-year-old named Donald Squeaky Simmons, fresh out of prison, was on his way to that exact same shop. He had a pistol tucked and was rocking a red, white, and blue New Jersey Nets cap, blending right into the vibe of game night. But Squeaky wasn't just wandering around. He had a mission. And the crazy part? This wasn't just some street beef. It was a whole setup that ran deep. It started with a guy named Marseille Nunnery. He hit up Marcus Ware, one of the barbers at Nationwide Cuts, and made him an offer, $30,000 if he'd just make a call the next time Kato came through. Ware agreed, setting the trap in motion. Meanwhile, Nunnery was already in touch with another heavyweight in the streets, LeBar Big G, one of the top dogs from the Four Corner Hustlers. He didn't waste time either. He reached out to Squeaky Simmons and offered him money to handle the job. Everything was lined up. The spot, the plan, the hitman. As soon as Kato stepped in and sat down, Marcus Ware quietly made the call to Nunnery. He's here. That was the signal. Nunnery, who was literally at work when he got the message, didn't hesitate for a second. He immediately contacted Big G Span, and together they went to scoop up Squeaky, who just so happened to be walking near Madison and Keeler, heading toward a liquor store. They all piled into the car and headed toward the barbershop. When they cruised past, they spotted Kato outside talking to Ware. That was the confirmation they needed. He was there. They kept driving, turned down an alley close by, and got ready. Span handed Squeaky the pistol and told him straight up, "Don't miss." Then they waited in the car. Moments later, Squeaky walked up to the trailer and stepped inside. Without warning, he pulled the trigger. Shots fired point blank at Kato while he was still in the chair. Chaos broke out in seconds. Kato hit the floor face down as blood began pooling beneath him. He'd been shot twice in the back of the neck, execution style, with powder burns proving how close the gun was when it went off. He also took bullets to his shoulder, chest, abdomen, and hip before it was all over. In a matter of moments, one of the most respected men in Chicago's street world was gone, taken out in a setup so cold that even the people closest to him never saw it coming. When investigators from the Cook County Medical Examiner's office showed up, they found Kato still draped in his luxury. His expensive bracelet and watch were untouched. His necklace, though, was later found pinned to the steps outside the barbershop. The shooter didn't take a single thing, but Squeaky didn't stop there. He also shot the barber in the foot and hit Kato's bodyguard in the hand before making a run for it. What Squeaky didn't realize was that Kato never moved around unprotected. The moment the gunfire broke out, Kato's bodyguard reacted fast. He pulled out his 5-shot revolver and started letting off rounds. He chased Squeaky straight out of the shop, firing as he ran, desperate to hit him. 2 Cook County sheriffs happened to be nearby, heard the shots, and joined in the chase. But in all the chaos, Squeaky managed to slip away into the night. Knowing the police were closing in, Kato's bodyguard quickly ditched his revolver in a bucket nearby to avoid getting caught with it. For a minute, it looked like Squeaky had pulled off the hit clean, but he made one huge mistake. He dropped his red, white, and blue New Jersey Nets cap, the same one witnesses remembered him wearing. That hat was found right next to Kato's SUV, and it became the key piece of evidence that later connected every dot. And just like that, Chicago lost one of its most powerful and respected figures. King Kato was gone. At first, when word spread that he'd been gunned down inside a barbershop, police leaned toward calling it a robbery gone wrong. That was their first theory, but from the jump, people in the streets weren't buying it. Something about it didn't sit right. Kato still had all his jewelry on when cops arrived, his watch, his bracelet, everything, still shining. If this was supposed to be a robbery, why leave all that behind? It didn't make sense. To anyone who really knew the game, that detail said it all. This wasn't a robbery. This was a straight-up hit. Not long after, the street started buzzing with talk, and the real story began to surface. Word was Kato had allegedly taken off with a massive load, around 150 keys, and not from just anybody. Those keys supposedly belonged to the Flores twins, the same brothers who were running things in Chicago for the Sinaloa cartel. Once that info started making rounds, everything started to click. Allegedly, the Flores twins reached out to Marseille Nunnery to make things right. And that's when the setup began. Nunnery moved quick. He brought in Marcus Ware, the barber, and promised him $30,000 just to make the call whenever Kato showed up. Then he connected with LeBar Big G Span from the Four Corner Hustlers, who later brought in Donald Squeaky Simmons, the young hitter who pulled the trigger that night. But that wasn't the only shocking twist. There was another rumor that made the whole story even messier. Some people believed Kato's own wife Valerie might have played a part in setting him up. The reason? After Kato's death, Valerie ended up marrying one of the Flores twins. That move alone had the whole city whispering and side-eyeing her every step. Some believe the story about the stolen keys was just a front, a distraction, to cover what was really an inside setup. The theory was that Valerie wanted out and saw a way to make it happen, using her connections to clear Kato out of the picture for good.
The Flores twins had Kato killed, but that's probably unlikely.
I mean, there's speculation. She went to jail for the dude. Valerie.
Others argued that maybe Valerie was just too deep in the life and ended up with another powerful man from the same world. It was survival, not betrayal. Either way, her relationship with the Flores family added a whole new layer of mystery, betrayal, and scandal to the story. Even with all that talk flying around, it took more than 5 months before any arrests were made. For a while, nobody knew who to trust or what was true. All people knew was that the streets had lost a king, and the game in Chicago would never be the same again. The first real break in King Kato's murder case came months later, November 14th, when Wayne Nunnery, Marseille's brother, got picked up by police. Just 8 days after that, Donald Squeaky Simmons was also arrested, though at first it was for something totally unrelated. Around the same time, LeBar Big G Span was already sitting in Cook County Jail on a separate robbery charge. That's when detectives started piecing things together and decided to press him about Kato's killing. At first, all 4 suspects, Nunnery, Span, Simmons, and Ware, agreed to talk without lawyers. Simmons tried to act cool, saying he had nothing to do with the hit and that he only knew about the murder from reading the papers. But the detectives weren't buying it. They hit him with the evidence. DNA from a strand of hair found inside that New Jersey Nets cap left right outside the shop. That cap was his downfall. When they dropped that on him, Simmons went silent. He asked for a cigarette and a glass of water, then finally said, "I'll talk." And that was it. The walls started closing in. By the end of that month, a grand jury hit all 4 men with serious charges: first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder, aggravated battery with a firearm, and armed robbery. On top of that, both Span and Nunnery was slapped with solicitation of murder and murder for hire charges. Simmons even picked up an extra count for aggravated unlawful use of a weapon. The case was locked tight. Fast forward a few years. By 2008, the trials were wrapping up. Wayne Nunnery, Marseille's brother, who helped set the whole thing up, took a deal to testify against Simmons. In return, prosecutors dropped the heavier charges, like murder and attempted murder, and Nunnery got hit with 11 years behind bars. But Simmons wasn't so lucky. The evidence stacked against him was too heavy to fight. He was found guilty of murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and aggravated battery with the firearm. The judge didn't hold back. Simmons got slammed with a 53-year sentence. Marseille Nunnery also got taken down, convicted of murder and sentenced to 36 years. But LeBar Big G Span decided to gamble. He turned down a plea deal and took his chances at trial. Shockingly, in 2009, the judge found him not guilty on the murder charges. He did end up pleading guilty to armed robbery, which earned him 6 years. But because he had already served nearly 5 years and 10 months, he barely had any time to do. But that wasn't the end of the story for Span, not even close. Even though he beat the murder charge at the state level, it came back to haunt him later when the feds picked up the case under a new conspiracy angle. This time, the feds had something stronger. Someone from inside his own circle flipped. Word was that one of Span's right-hand men turned informant and started spilling everything to federal prosecutors, connecting dots the state never could. That twist reopened old wounds, proving that in the streets, even when you think you've beaten the game, there's always another level waiting to catch up with you. King Kato's death left a hole in Chicago's underground scene. An empire built on loyalty, money, and fear came crashing down in one brutal moment. DMX lost a real friend, the Latin Kings lost a leader they respected, and the streets lost one of their most powerful figures. And just like that, one of the wildest true stories from Chicago's history came full circle, filled with betrayal, power, and the kind of loyalty that could get you killed. If you made it this far, drop a comment and tell us what you think about King Kato's story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and hit that bell so you don't miss the next deep dive into the untold stories behind hip-hop's most shocking legends.